Hey there, film fans. I am Jeff.
I'm Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies both new and old with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right. And to avoid any lazy negativity, we have made this a drinking game.
Yes, we have.
Negative criticism about a film is allowed, but it will be called out, and you will have to take a drink. You'll hear this sound.
Yeah.
That means we're drinking. We hope you drink along with us, too.
So pour yourselves a glass and join us as we explode the top of our beer and talk about some films we love and maybe a film that needs some love. Hey, Jeff, our old friend Sonosora Archon, I can't pronounce that. I can't even read that. Just joined us on the Twitch chat as well.
On Twitch?
Yeah.
What?
Was it the person who joined you for
the
Boys in the Hood watch party?
Yes. Very first, very funny watch party. Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Cool. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for joining.
Well, coming at you soon, friends. We are going to be in week 2 of our It Was the Best of Film, It Was the Worst of Film series that we're doing. This is week 2, where we pair a presumed Oscar nominee. Of course, there are no nominations yet, so this is based on bettors and Vegas. So a presumed Oscar nominee and a supposedly good film with a supposedly bad film that will be nominated for a Razzie award. Again, no nominations are out yet. This is just what is expected, what people are talking about. So we figured we would give these films a watch. That's what we're headed into. But first, we are going to send it over to John for some shout outs.
All right, the shout outs, as always, we're going to give it up for the beer sponsor, the man, the living legend, the one and only Carlos Barroso. You can give him a follow on Instagram. The handle is Barroso Bar 2019. That is CBARROZOBAR 2019. Dave is modeling the beers. Jeff is modeling the beers. Good labels, good brews.
I'm on the white caps and the red caps tonight.
Sexy.
Doing yellow here.
Hell yeah. And the music you hear on this episode and every episode is provided by the artist Dasein. That's Dasein, Dasein. And you can find all this music and all the other music available for free downloads. Just go over to soundcloud.com/Dasein-artist. All right, you guys.
All right.
Let's do it, man. Week 2. Best film, worst film.
Week
2 of this series, yes. And episode 45.
Gosh.
It's yeah, it's that episode that everyone thought was going to be good, but just turned really mean at the end.
Oh my gosh!
Or from the
Dave,
entire fucking time. Yeah.
Dave, are there any stories you want to talk about first?
Oh, there's a couple actually. It's been a really fun week for news. But also a quick shout out that I didn't warn you guys about in advance. A couple of birthdays happening today. Very important birthdays. Betty White. Betty White is 99 today.
99.
Holy shit.
Yes.
Congratulations, Betty.
Yeah, and apparently she's celebrating by feeding the ducks or something that come visit her house. So,
hey.
I love her.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you can't go outside at the moment. Then no, there's a bubble around Betty White's house, thank God. And favorite James Earl Jones, 90.
Whoa.
Wow.
Today. They have the same birthday. Yeah. Why have these guys, have they ever done a movie together? That should happen.
Oh my gosh!
No, they haven't.
I love the pictures, Dave. Thanks for throwing the pictures up for our viewers.
Just in case they didn't know who Betty White or James Earl Jones were. Yeah,
correct.
She's from that Snickers commercial. Oh, come on, you guys.
But yeah, so yeah, happy birthday to those two, and I'm sure they're having a great day. I hope next year they can celebrate. The couple of news items. Did you see there's a TV series of 1984 in the works?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I read about that.
Mm-hmm.
What are they thinking?
They're trying to explain to people what it actually is about because Don Trump Jr. really fucked with everybody's heads, saying the literal opposite of what it was about recently, if you follow the news. So they just want to set the record straight.
Yeah.
And also really, really fuck with the polarization going on in the country. They really want to implement themselves into that.
I mean, I can't imagine the audience for this is going to be too responsive because we're basically living through it.
Well, they're like, why are people on Facebook? Outrage. Let's put that towards television. Let's have people hate watch these shows. Let's let Reddit go crazy.
It's also going to comment on this whole gigantic thing that has just been confusing to me this entire time, these past 4, 8, 12 years, whenever you want to start counting. There was a time when informed people on the left through research, credible research and things like that, reading, maybe more, I don't think fringe is the better word. These are published, legitimate people who are citing legitimate sources who would create, platforms of thought that led to things like 1984, where people were supposed to question your government based on legitimate stuff. And now it's so topsy-turvy. I think it could be, depending on how they handle this, it makes me a little nervous. If they don't handle this responsibly, it's just going to feed the rage monster. Because I feel like they have hijacked, the right has hijacked this thing that used to be based on actual credible citations of sources and information and research. And now it's just anger and emotion. So maybe they're trying to set the record straight and show how it's supposed to be. They should just watch the film or read the book, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I think between the Lord of the Rings series and the 1984 series, I'm picking the fucking Lord of the Rings series to tune into every week.
Right.
Prime is doing that.
Yeah, Prime's doing that. I think they've started filming actually.
God damn it.
Did you see that film? It hasn't got a name yet, but it's like Andy Samberg, Ben Stiller, Noah Hawley, all working together on a sci-fi film. It's like, holy shit, what a crew.
And they're going to come up a little bit later, right?
Oh yeah,
we'll be talking about some of them a little bit later.
Yes, we will definitely be talking about Andy Samberg a little bit later.
Yeah.
Anyone else got anything?
What's the last thing you sent us about? Yeah, just the streaming news that we were talking about earlier this week. Streamers plan to spend $112 billion in 2021. So I think who read the notice that Netflix plans to release a movie once a week?
Yeah, I saw that today. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being a filmmaker thinking you're going to get your big break and then you're just going to fall into a 52 fucking can you imagine? Like, there's no way they're going to actually get people. They're not going to do the marketing to get people to actually see. There's no anticipation for anything if you release a movie once a week.
It's the pray and spray
I'm not for that
release schedule. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That made me. I felt kind of frustrated.
I don't mind if they, like, the last time they pulled this routine, it was 3 really good things and everything else sucked. So
that's what I'm saying. Like do your.
I knew I was going down.
I'm so happy. No, I'm so happy that they are giving filmmakers opportunities. I want it. Give me a chance to get my film on Netflix. So I'm so happy in one way, but in another way, every filmmaker on any level learns that there is another job to do after post-production, and it's called exhibition. It's release. It's how you actually get people to come and see your movie or how you're going to roll it out. And I just feel like Netflix is just fucking curb stomping it, dude. They're not giving anyone a chance to anticipate anything, to talk about anything. And then as soon as it's over, they're going to recommend the next one. And I don't know. It just makes me a little nervous.
We just got a question here in the chat from Sonorous. Have you guys heard of the Oliver North project with Ben Stiller and Colin Farrell? I'll tell you, I'm not going to lie. I learned everything I learned about Oliver North from American Dad. So, yeah, that's about the extent of my knowledge right there.
I have not heard of this project.
A 90-second song.
Ben Stiller. Yeah, no, I have not heard of this project. Yeah, we're going to read about it though.
Yeah, we'll look that up because that's going to be interesting. Big news this week that Charlie Cox was spotted on the set of Spider-Man. Which anyone who doesn't know who Charlie Cox was, he played Daredevil on Netflix, which was summarily cancelled, and the license for those characters with Netflix just ran out. No sooner did it run out, we've got Charlie Cox on set. Now, that's exciting enough, but I'm more excited about the fact that if they're throwing in Charlie Cox, you've got to throw in D'Onofrio as Kingpin. It's like, give me fucking D'Onofrio as Kingpin.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I remember we talked
Spider-Man's the right one to introduce it to as well, because they're kind of neighborhood heroes, right? Like, it's not too huge. We're not saving the universe with these people, are we?
I think Spider-Man's going to introduce they'll start the whole multiverse thing going. So it might not be saving the universe, just a multiverse.
Tommy Holland. All right.
I just hope they don't fall in the same trap the last Spider-Man 3 did, which is let's jam a whole heap of stuff in there and have none of it good.
What you guys been watching this week? Anybody watch anything of note? We're only watching, just to recap really quick, we're only watching 2 movies a week now with this thing. So all of us have a little bit more free time. So is anybody making responsible use of it, or are we just watching a bunch of bullshit?
No, I'm in the final season of Gotham. I'm trying to get through that because it finished a while back, and I just want to see how it ends.
Is it good?
There are some great takes, and there are some other things that are not good. You can pretty much not ever watch the second episode. They do some really stupid stuff with young Catwoman. But yeah, the show itself, I really like what they do with some of the villains, and
Sweet, dude.
it's pretty good. We threw an impromptu watch party the other night for Johnny Mnemonic, with Keanu Reeves.
Oh yeah.
That actually the incident, that whole movie starts on this day in the future. So today, it's fucking terrible.
Before Trump's out of office, which day is that?
What did you say, Jeff? I missed what you said. What did you say?
Which day? 3 days before Trump's out of office? Is that the day that they set?
Yes.
God damn it! Yes, yes. This time next week, you guys. It's fucking celebration.
And of course, I watched WandaVision.
Yes, I knew you would have.
Which could start a 20-minute discussion, but yeah, I was tuning into the Post Sanity guys over in the UK who do a similar thing to what we do, and they went off for about an hour on this thing, and they weren't fans, to be honest. I think I was more of a fan than they were.
Just one episode so far?
2 episodes. And they're set as like it's a different sitcom style every week, and they slowly go through the ages. Right. They've just got to color, but there's also little bits of like ominous shit crawling in there. But the thing that got me is the show itself is actually genuinely funny. Like they're actually doing real comedy. It's fun. It's quirky. Yeah. So Sonora's just asked who in the UK. Nice. They're called Post Sanity. They usually broadcast on Saturdays. Yeah. Give them a look. They're fun. They have some great discussions.
Hey, maybe we'll just I watched this week after I see it.
I watched a few fun things. Kicking it off with, and I'm so excited for part 2 tonight. Give me the shout outs for the fucking Tiger documentary series on Netflix.
I haven't seen it yet.
Jeff, I know. Oh, God damn it, dude. I was hoping you would watch it.
What is it with the start of the year? I said Tiger documentaries.
HBO. Part 2 comes out tonight. That is Sunday, January 17th. I'm so excited. I'll be watching it tonight. Really excellent. So I watched that. And then I watched, it was a rewatch for me, Turkish director Nuri Bilge Ceylan's Palme d'Or winner from 2014. It's called Winter Sleep. Really intense, wonderful, dark, existential film, if anyone is feeling that kind of stuff. I watched, Tiger kind of got me on the doc thing, so I started Ken Burns' The War. This is World War II doc series, which is just as good as everything else I've ever seen him make. Fuck yes. Then I watched The Wind and the Lion, John Milius film with Sean Connery, which is weird, from the 70s. And Chef. Anybody seen that Chef movie with Jon Favreau?
Oh, yeah.
No.
Very touching. That was good.
Hey, really did you see the poll I threw on the Facebook page this week? The Boston Sci-Fi Festival is running a what's the worst sci-fi movie ever? And it's down to 3 movies. It's down to Leonard Part 6, Zardoz, and oh God, what was the third one? Oh, Battlefield Earth. So yeah, if you want some fun, drop over to our Facebook page, and it'll take you straight to their quiz. Nice. And you can vote on what the worst sci-fi movie ever was.
Nice, dude.
Jeff, what have you been watching?
Jeff, what'd you watch, dude?
Those 3. I did not watch as much. I did watch a little bit of sports, which right now we're recording during a divisional round playoff. Fine. I did watch the national championship game. Shout out to Alabama. And then for fun, because I'm now back up north, I was in Metuchen and we watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail came up. We were like, we want a 90-minute comedy, goddammit.
Nice.
And so we watched The Grail. And
so
that's
good.
I think that's it. I don't think I watched much TV this week. Also travel, a little date night for the first time in a while yesterday, so not as much new original content. So WandaVision and Tiger are next on my list.
Okay, dude.
Yeah, WandaVision is not what you expect. I'll just warn you. It's not what you expect, but go with it. There's so many Easter eggs already just in 2 episodes.
Nice. Cool.
All right, well, without any further ado, we're going to get into our 2 award season films, if you will. So our first film, which is the presumed good movie that's going to be getting a lot of positive awards, Palm Springs, and our second film, which is getting some Razzie buzz, according to Vegas, and that is The Last Thing He Wanted. That movie stars Anne Hathaway, Ben Affleck, Willem Dafoe, and Toby Jones. We'll tell you all about it. It's directed by Dee Rees. This is her first film since Mudbound. We'll talk about it in our second segment, but we should get into our first film, which is Palm Springs, as we mentioned before. Our co-host Dave here did out to us this summer after we had finished watching 1,000 films for our franchise face. Watched a film for pleasure. Hulu bought this film at the Sundance Film Festival in 2020. Well, they didn't buy it at Sundance. They bought it from the distributors who realized that they were not going to be filmed. So Hulu was very quick to pop it onto the streaming platforms in, I think it was July, right?
It was quite expensive.
This movie
too,
definitely getting
like I think it was like one of the most expensive purchases
at Sundance. Yeah,
by 69 cents.
Yes,
it's the most
by 69 cents.
I really wanted someone to have that stat
good round
on hand.
number for them to round up. So this film stars Andy Samberg and Cristin Milioti, with a very important role by J.K. Simmons and Squibb and everybody else in the film. It is a romantic comedy sci-fi, which we can unpack a little bit more. I do think it is important because of the Groundhog Day effect. I think it's okay to say that right off the bat as sort of part of the gimmick, because that is the sci-fi element. And it does help with the context, because again, this came out in the summer during COVID, and it's living the same day over and over again. So you can see how, in a way, like, even though they might have been a little soon to market, it was definitely for them to let Hulu distribute this movie with no other competition at the time for free, so that people who had the platform can rent it. That was really, really, really cool. And the last thing I'll say as far as award season buzz, romantic comedies like this don't necessarily get the Oscar buzz, but this is definitely the kind of movie that's going to get some gold, because it's in the comedy section and it features strong performances by Andy and Cristin. Maybe the Academy will give it some writing stuff. We're not here to deliberate that per se, but it's definitely a movie that... So, without further ado, let's go ahead to the IMDb description, and then I'm going to pass it along to you. When carefree Niles and reluctant maid of honor Sarah encounter at a Palm Springs wedding, things get complicated as they are unable to escape the venue, themselves, or each other. Who would like to take it away from there?
If you're okay, I kind of want to hear you talk about, because you talked about this first to us over the summer during our franchise face-off, and you were really pumped about it. So, one, I assume you rewatched it for this week, but what was it like, kind of discovering it early? Because I've heard so much about it before this week, and I only watched it this week for the first time.
It's for me, it was a feel-good, like a real feel-good movie that also had some edgy, quirky humor. I mean, there are some inappropriate scenes in the first 5 minutes of this that you're like, what the hell am I watching?
I watched this again with my parents this week.
Why did you do that, dude? Oh my god!
Andy Samberg is
forgot about the first 5 minutes.
Andy Samberg is literally masturbating in the first 5 minutes of this movie. So yeah, you can imagine how fun that was for Jeff. But it's just like I think one of the things that helps sells it is the chemistry between the two of them. I haven't seen chemistry like that since, like, Sandler and Barrymore, really. And
50,
and that was a really good chemistry mix. These two work, I think, because no matter where he goes, she will also go. And I think both of them have a dialogue delivery that is really, really good, in that you never once think this is an actor saying lines. Both of them are so good at dialogue delivery that it's what they think coming out of their mouth. Like, it's 100% convincing. And so some of the stuff is very snappy as a result of it, and it's very character based. And I find the dialogue really realistic. The writing is spectacular. I really loved revisiting it again at the end. Like, I was even sitting there with a smile on my face. I was laughing out loud at parts, even though I'd seen it before. The rewatchability on this is pretty high. And then J.K. Simmons like storms on screen, and you're like, yes, like,
yeah. They use him. They use him perfectly in this movie.
Jeff, what's the movie from Safety Not Guaranteed? This kind of reminded me of the. Do you remember that one? You liked that one a lot, right?
I remember that one.
Safety Not.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you loved that movie. think it was like 2012 or 2013, similar thing, Sundance movie. There is a kind of a formula. I'm not saying they're all predictable. They have really, they have a wide range of different kinds of dramatic material. But
just so it's the one I'm thinking of, it's the Is It or Isn't It time travel movie.
Well, let's not give it away, but
no, yes, is it or isn't it?
It does build to something like that. There's a sci-fi element to it. It's the one with what's her name from
Aubrey Plaza,
Mark Duplass,
directed by Colin Trevorrow, who almost had a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, until he went nuts and started saying things like, "I'm going to shoot in space," which Tom Cruise then went and did.
Yeah, what I say. I think he does it. Anyway, so Palm Springs kind of every now and then this kind of movie that hit the fucking bullseye on the festival circuit. You just know you're watching a movie that movie's going to crush at festivals. But then every now and then a movie like this will also transcend the festival circuit and will, make its way into our heads and our hearts through whatever, streaming services or theaters. I would have gone to see this in the theater. I think it's one of those really good balances. It doesn't feel too indie for being an indie film. And it also doesn't feel like it's overreaching. It's an indie film. And there are some, like Jeff said, there's a sci-fi element to this movie that I don't want to ruin it specifically, but there's a magical element to this that basically allows this time loop to happen. And they don't overreach with it. They don't try to go too far with special effects and try to make it so much about the science of the sci-fi. It stays about the humans. And even though Andy Samberg is the star in this, for me, this movie was all about Cristin Milioti. She has the biggest journey. And I think they knew when they wrote and made this. And shout out to writer and director. Director, his name is Max Barbacal, and the writer, his name is Andy Ciara. I'm pretty fucking positive these guys are AFI film grads, and they crushed it. And I think they probably knew we're going to need, if we have someone like Andy to get the face in front of it, and get people to maybe become attracted, you're going to laugh. Sure, you're going to laugh. But you're going to stay with this movie because she's so fucking amazing. So I feel like they knew, we need an actor that's going to make people take this seriously. So it's not just a gimmicky rom-com, which I think it could have in lesser hands have turned into something kind of silly like that. But it doesn't. It stays. It rides this line really well where you are on board with them dramatically. I know it's not a drama, but you know what I mean? Dramatically, you're on board with it. But you're still going to take it seriously because of her, because she is teaching a fucking masterclass in the first half of this movie when she realizes she is a victim of what starts happening to her with this repetition. We don't have to give away all the details, but Andy's been living in this and she gets introduced to this and she does everything you want her to do to justify the absurdity of this plot.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I really love about this. And it takes it away from a basic Groundhog comparison or reboot, is that it starts with him, but you don't it doesn't give away, or it sort of gives away, but you don't realize until a rewatch that he's in this loop from the beginning. She's the one that is about to get a big surprise in this movie and get pulled into the loop. So it's I love that they put that little twist on it. I also have to say that when you're talking about what they do when they're trapped in the loop, the day by day montage when they're just going through what they do from day to day. I don't know whether they workshop that or that was written, but it's fucking brilliant. It's hilarious.
I mean, so that's a perfect example. That's the kind of thing in a film, a day-to-day montage, and montages in general, but specifically that for this particular vehicle. They planned all, somebody sat down at some point and was like, this is an important part of the movie. We want people to enjoy this, but because it's pulled off so well, it doesn't take away from anything else. That could have been super gimmicky, right? Yeah. If we were like, oh, you were kind of just making this movie so we could see them just fucking kick it, do drugs, and kill each other in their time loop. But they didn't do that. It doesn't get boiled down to them being ridiculous in their time loop. It has enough of that so you're going to have some fun. But ultimately, you have a very strong feeling the entire time that they're going to want more out of this. And it doesn't just sit in that comedic place, which is why it worked for me. I was always waiting. I was constantly in anticipation for where the story was going to move. And it wasn't just driven by the filmmakers. It was driven by the performances. And again, that's just Sundance gold, right? When the acting is so good, doesn't matter the genre or whatever, I'm waiting for what's going to happen next because the actors are really giving it to me. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm talking so much. Yeah, get it.
No, it's totally fine.
Yeah, we're going to talk about another
I
Sundance film.
Like, I love this. I love this film so much that I actually forgot to gush you.
Oh yeah, Done with the gush
drinking
again.
anyway.
So this is my second viewing, and I took no notes because I was watching it with my family and Chloe, who loved it. It takes a second to get into it because it's not a tone that you expect if it's pitched as a rom-com, which I guess I did to my family. It's also short, hour 30. You know how I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think to go off of what you both were saying, but especially what John was saying, this was written well to be acted well. So it didn't get the humor. The humor was in them. It wasn't in the cleverness of anything that was on the page. And we're going to talk about another movie soon that whatever was on the page ruined the whole. Well, okay, sorry, I spoke again. I'm ahead of myself. But for instance, okay, so this is a sci-fi-ish, rom-com-ish film. So there's going to be some spoofy things. So for instance, not spoiling anything, to say that at one point Andy Samberg gets shot with an arrow. Why not?
Her reaction to that is perfect too.
Her reaction
Unbelievable.
is
it's
perfect
exactly.
for a comedy. It's perfect. It's real. I'm not saying it's not real, but if it was in a different film, it would work in Network, but it probably wouldn't work in Taxi Driver. Like, it's perfect for this. There's a couple other elements, especially with Andy Samberg's character's girlfriend in the film, who, let's just say, is not in the time loop. There are just a lot of ways that he's playing with her repetition for us, which, it's silly, right? But it's like, that's the comedy element, but that's not the point of the movie. The point of the movie isn't for that to be funny and that to be hilarious. That is part of the day-to-day grind when you're in. It's as you said, it's grounded in this absurd reality, which also is not too, which is another thing that could have sunk the comedy, is if it was too heady, too ridiculous. It was the right amount. So it's very digestible. It's rewatchable, which how many movies coming out nowadays are rewatchable? There are very few movies I've seen in the past 12 months that I want to watch again. So yeah, it's just across the board. It's just a really, really fucking good, fun.
I'm glad you said that.
And used perfectly, because we know he's awesome, and it's such a good. He is a stick of dynamite in this movie, and he doesn't even come in for a while. Then he comes in and then he leaves for a while. And then it's like it is just a perfect device. It's perfect.
It is a perfect device. You said that so well. Say it one more time. Repeat it. It was written well to be performed well.
Yeah.
Is that what you said? I like that, because I was, of course, you can't help but think a little bit about it, especially since we're doing this for this show. I was very conscious of the fact that on the page, I bet it didn't read as hilarious. I kept thinking about that. Like, this is a movie that needed to be talked through. The pitching was important for the director and the writer to sit down and talk to these actors and talk to whoever is going to be involved about the way they're going to do it and the way they're going to tell it, so that it doesn't read like simply a comedy, because it is like we've been saying, but there is something else to it. And the personalities are so important. It took me on a little loop when I was thinking about the making of Groundhog Day. Anyone who knows anything about the relationship between Bill Murray and Harold Ramis, who plays Binkman in the Ghostbusters movies, who directed Groundhog Day, they had an enormous falling out after Groundhog Day because Harold Ramis wanted it to be a little bit more grounded and sincere and a little bit more philosophical. And Bill was nervous about that and passionately disagreed with him and wanted it to stay in the comedic love story, kind of not coming of age, but a little bit of his own journey kind of thing, like Andy Samberg in this movie. And I think this Palm Springs, just like Groundhog Day, handled the balance perfectly. There were definitely moments when I laughed out loud, and it's because the performances were heightened and the storytelling was good and almost kind of static. They never tried to do way too much with the filmmaking. They really just point the camera at these people and let them go nuts. Let her freak the fuck out when he gets shot by an arrow. Let him make fun of the girlfriend and stuff. There are a lot of really fun little moments, but it ultimately is a good movie. I don't think anyone who walks away from this movie is going to say it's good because it's funny. No one's going to say that about this movie. That's not the reason why this movie is special. I also think that this is a Sundance branding kind of thing. I think they often bring this little, I call it like the Sixth Sense kind of element to these movies. There is an existential philosophical kind of trippy thing that I don't want us to say out loud, what they see at some point. There's something that they experience together that kind of comments on not just the absurdity of what they're going through, but questioning what is real and what isn't real. And whenever people can pull that off in a movie, especially since movies already have a dreamlike quality, it always adds this other thing to it that I always feel that only really good storytelling can do. There's a couple plays that have pulled it off, like Jerusalem. All right, sure. Yeah, sure.
There it is. Jerusalem, yeah.
But I mean, there's this other element to it that really worked for me. And I thought it took the movie up a notch too. And there are certain storytelling things that feel like when they get pulled off in movies, you kind of have to sit back and say, this director and this writer and whoever else was involved took a lot of chances on this movie, in spite of the fact that everyone is comparing it to a movie like Groundhog Day that is very, very, very well known. I think they made it their own in multiple ways, which is the only reason why I enjoyed it. Because I, as much as I love Groundhog Day, I don't think anyone wanted to watch somebody try to do that again. You know, they needed to really make it their own. And I think they very successfully did that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
No, I agree.
And they let the philosophical stuff slip. They let the philosophical stuff slip in. Like there's lines like, if you don't remember your past, you're doomed to repeat it. Obviously, they're in a time. Everything that we're doing is meaningless. I hope this.
Yeah.
And they're stuck in a time loop. But that's not the point of the movie. And also to your points about the performances, the one thing that I left out is Cristin Milioti's, some of her best work is in her patience. Right.
Yes.
So she's like, the way she's just you watch her and you know she wants to do something, but she's being expressive, and even Andy Samberg is kind of like wondering what she's doing, and the power that she yields. To your point, John, at the very beginning of what you said, is like, yeah, she really is the one that carries through this whole film, and I think that stands out. Yeah, good for her. That's fucking awesome.
There's one. Did you guys watch it through? You watched the extra bit in the credits as well?
Yeah.
That was my big. The first time I watched it, I was like, "Wait, they just totally left that open." And then no sooner had I thought that, and they popped straight into that after credits scene. So keep watching through the credits if you watch this. I do have one question though, and I'm interested to see what you guys think. Was the grandmother in the loop?
That's great. No answer to that.
See, I don't think I interpreted it as,
I think she was.
See, I didn't think she was in the loop. I felt like she was.
There's no answer to that question, by the way. There's no answer. Yeah. Everybody has their own answer to that.
Yeah, it's almost.
No,
I
wait, that was gonna be my point. Brought up the thing about the slipping in the philosophical stuff is because we're gonna talk about this with the next. Sometimes we take a good idea and then we over specific. That ruins the idea. And I know that's a really difficult, but in this, if the whole movie is just about them getting out of this time loop and if the whole movie is about figuring out who they are, it ruins it. There has to be some air. There has to be some interpretation for us as the audience. And I think they do that really, really well, where they put you do, and then things like that question that you just asked, Dave, which is perfect, is loop. There's no answer. There's no answer. It's like the dreidel at the end of Inception. It's like
yes. Don't get me started on that one.
Do you want her to be? You know,
I don't know. I do. I'm quite happy with that.
Which is just a really good storytelling technique. And the last thing I'll say is that Jeff mentioned, you know, this came out at a unique time. Every now and then, art just lands at the right fucking moment. And anyone who doesn't know how long it takes to make a movie, they did not plan on the pandemic coming out when they made this. You know, so
didn't.
I mean, you know, some people think like, oh, they must have pumped this
when
out.
They spent $17.5 million buying it to be distributed. They certainly didn't plan. Well, I mean, you know, and the pandemic was already in the world.
I'm sure they saw what we saw.
I'm just saying, anyone who doesn't know this, Sundance is in, you know, the winter. It's in January every year. So like they made this movie over a year and a half ago, probably, and they've been working on it leading up to their premiere at Sundance. So every now and then, art lines up perfectly with time. If anyone is looking for some medicine for how to make peace with this time that seems like it'll never end, and make peace with the fact that we're probably going to have to do something very dramatic to segue out of this. Like, this is, you know, it's just one of those good things that
I don't recommend.
Less stressed about what's happening.
I don't recommend their solution. Just saying, we don't recommend their solution.
Yeah. Yeah, don't do what happened at the Capitol.
Leave
but
the goats
that was
alone.
good. I think we killed it. I think anyone who's watched this film knows. I almost feel guilty for us trying to like dissect this movie because I thought about this when I watched Chef this past week as well. And I watched Chef right before I watched this. Two really excellent, well done, feel good movies, for lack of a better word. It's feel good. And sometimes feel good movies feel cheap. And I feel like I'm being manipulated and they're gimmicky. And there's a lot of things that make me, not be drawn to them. I usually want more intense drama. And whenever you pull off a feel good movie, sometimes it's better not to say anything at all. You just let people experience it.
Yeah.
And, feel whatever magic you get out of it. You decide if the grandma's in the loop. You decide if the other thing that I was mentioning earlier is in the loop.
Yeah, it's
and
like
just have fun. So
there was no buzz about this at all until Hulu bought it for a ridiculous amount of money. It was just let out there for people to find, and I love that.
Wait, hold on. Did Hulu actually buy it? Somebody else buy it, hoping to distribute it, and then resold it to Hulu?
I thought Hulu bought it.
Hulu bought it at Sundance outright.
Hulu did buy it. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is happening more and more at this big festival. It's like those people are showing up. They're ready to buy it.
But guess who has the money? Can you think about what the festivals for next year?
God damn it, dude.
They did say they're planning to spend a couple of $100 billion, so
Jesus Christ.
All right. Well,
that was it, man.
I guess that's it. Go see Palm Springs. It's sweet. It is on Hulu this very second, and the questions about it by your friends, your peers, and people who are doing award shit. But we are going to take a quick break to pee. You for our presumed Razzie nominee, the last he wanted. We will see you in a few minutes, film fan. And we're back.
back,
baby. Oh
my gosh, people!
Here we go.
It was Palm Springs. This available. The Last Thing He Wanted, starring Anne Hathaway, Ben Affleck, Rosie Perez. I forgot to mention at the top. It is available on Netflix. Dee Rees directed it and cooked. So let's get a little bit of background on this film because this film came out in 2020. It came out in January. Well, actually, it came out in February. Sundance Film Festival, even though Netflix bought the rights to the film in 2018. But for some reason, the Sundance, which sort of that stirred a little bit of debate, but I digress. This movie has a 5% on Rotten Tomatoes, and the summary of all of the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes is it'll be the last thing most viewers want too.
Oh.
Metacritic gave it a 35. IMDb gave it a 4.3. And this is just a really bad run by Anne Hathaway. She has 5 rotten movies in a row, 2 of which are up for Razzies, including Roald Dahl's The Witches, which we're going to talk about at some point in a couple weeks, but just for mentioning it.
No, you just said rotten movies.
Yeah,
I just want to remind everyone that this is a positive film show,
right?
And any negative comment will get a drink penalty.
Damn it! All right, you're right. Well, I just
what
wanted
are the other movies?
The other ones of hers.
Yeah,
okay.
Done,
well,
like
so this and The Witches, the Roald Dahl's The Witches.
Right.
She has Locked Down, which is coming out this month with Chiwetel Ejiofor, is at 45%.
Ooh,
right. Serenity, 2019.
Serenity. That's the one I was trying to think of.
2019.
What is going on?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it happens because the Princess Diaries is negative, and that's the reason we know who she is. So it's tomatoes and stuff. I typed into Netflix to try to find this movie, which again, Netflix bought this movie and it came out in 2020. And
did an apology notice pop up?
I typed in The Last, and this movie did not come up. Right. And I know The Last Dance came out this past year and Netflix bought it. So that being number 1 made sense. But it wasn't in the top 8. The Last, a huge star cast that just came out this year.
And it's
The
a
Last.
huge cast.
Especially with their algorithm. I mean, that's
they want
crazy.
You to watch their. I'm sorry. That means that Netflix is trying to bury this. That's just what that means.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
So, okay, what the movie's about, Joan Didion book, who apparently she had book for 12 years, and it's sort of about Iran-Contra, for anybody who knows what that's about. So this takes place in 1984.
Learn about that from American Dad, too.
In 1982. Right. So obviously a Reagan election year, which they talk a little bit about. So a veteran DC journalist, Anne Hathaway, loses the thread of her own narrative when a guilt-propelled errand for her father, Willem Dafoe, thrusts her from byline to unwitting subject in the very story she's trying to break. I think I'll stop there. There's more that we're going to have to unpack about the quote-unquote plot. Who wants to take it from there?
Dave, don't be shy.
I'd just like to say, I've got a beer open, but in preparation for this, we'll just crack this one as well.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I kind of feel I might be the reactionary on this one. So why don't you lay it on us? And I kind of want to hear your criticism, because I think I minded this. I liked this a little more than both of you. I think I didn't mind it. It was just. Let's do it. Dave, hit me.
I just want to say, like, Willem Dafoe, great. Owns anything you give him, even when
always,
like in fair warning, the book that this is based on, the Joan Didion, it's hailed as, her work is hailed as being unadaptable, and this book in particular was hailed as being unadaptable. And I'm pretty sure they were right. To be honest, it was just
why? Why do you feel
there was I mean, I'm not sure if there was stuff that there was supposed to fill in the blanks, that because she was writing, directing, she knew, and just felt fine to let that out or leave that out. But like and a lot of people reviewed it this way, but I bloody agree, is that half the time you don't know why people are doing things and what's going on. It's so damn confusing. There are total character shifts from one minute to the next that just don't make sense. There's no reason for them. It's 1 minute she's a crying fucking mother, the next minute she's like fucking Wonder Woman overpowering this drug dealer, and it's just ridiculous shifts in character that they're not feeding the audience for. There's these massive gaps the whole way through it. And I'm sorry, but like when we get to the airport and she like, because she basically, the premise is it starts off with her as a reporter, and then she meets with her father, and he, like, through dialogue you get that they're estranged, and then for some reason she finds out that her father is a gun runner, and she decides to take over that because he needs to do this deal. And so she goes down there with basically no experience whatsoever and decides to implement herself into a fucking gun deal. And it's what did you think was going to... It all goes horribly wrong from there. I still don't know what happened at the end. There's whole articles on the internet explaining how this movie ends. And I'm sorry, if your movie needs that, you fucked up.
Yeah.
There were a couple people... I read a user review online that said, I read the book before I saw the movie, knowing the movie was coming out, and I still don't know what the movie's about, but the book is really good.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We always, I can't buzz you for that because someone else said it, but I will say that we always like to come up with a drinking game for these films. The drinking game for this one is drink every time you want to check to see how much is left in this movie.
Oh no!
Also, wait, and before John gets into it, because I'm kind of with John that I didn't mind the movie, but I am with Dave that it was confusing as fuck. It's really convenient that Willem Dafoe's character is like a gun munitions trader, because Anne Hathaway opens up basically, at the very beginning of the movie that she's headed to Nicaragua and El Salvador, and she's curious she thinks America is sending arms to South America that's going to go to the Contras, and they're lying about it in real life. So we know what that's about. So the Iran-Contra story is a good story. And then it just becomes, basically she becomes the plot of her, because she gets stuck down there. But it's because her dad is running munitions. Like, it's just a little convenient. She doesn't even know what her father does. And it just happens to be this weird specific niche that she needs. You know what I mean? So that was a tricky thing to get over. I don't know how they do it in the book. But
apparently she grew up with it in the book, and she knew the whole time that's what he did. She just chose to ignore it. Which makes more sense. Why was that not included? Like, if you're adapting this, why would you not include that very, very important point?
I think they wanted her to be confused, and they thought that they can pull it off, that us being confused and her being confused at the same time, and it would sort of be a little trippy, maybe like a little like
I feel like that only works if it's like, one or the other. Like either the protagonist doesn't know what's going on and we do, or they know what's going on and we don't. If your protagonist is just wandering through scenes lost as fuck, like it doesn't work.
Unless you've already established that. So like there was no journey for her making peace with the fact that her father did that or being confused about it. It did feel like she was supposed to be confused about the actual deal, but she had already understood completely what her father did. So there were a lot of dramaturgical
the whole thing
issues.
Is just so cold and functional. You don't get the chance to really care about anyone.
And let's go ahead and give it up. This is
definitely not her, which is too bad. It's too bad because I wanted to, and just.
This is directed by Dee Rees, who made Mudbound.
Yeah,
directed Mudbound. So anyone who saw that
might have been the reason I was so put off by this, because I had high expectations coming in, given the names attached to it.
Yeah, I think we all did. So Jeff made a comment earlier when we were talking about Palm Springs that. So what'd you say? Sometimes you concentrate too much on the specifics and you lose your idea. Is that what you said?
Yeah, so this is about Iran-Contra, which is a really compelling thing. But then when you make it all about her, you lose the Contra element of it. And then the movie just gets... It can't decide what it's trying... What story it's trying to tell. This was like
3 different things.
Yeah, and I'll push back that on just a hair, because I think we have all seen amazing movies that are dealing with the big picture issue of this thing, like The Killing Fields, or other things that are dealing with the giant geopolitical issue, and they do it in a very intimate way with one point of view through a protagonist. But there are many reasons why this one didn't pull it off. I'm going to make the analogy to the thing that Jeff said about the specifics with the idea. Sometimes an actor has to use a dialect, and sometimes the dialect is so spot on that it's unintelligible. And then it doesn't matter if you're fucking accurate, because the audience doesn't know what the fuck you're saying. So you gotta find your middle ground.
That happened to DiCaprio in Blood Diamond. People always ripped on his accent, but actually he was doing a good accent.
Yeah,
he was. Yeah. I think that there are times when this happens. This movie kept making me think of reference to last week's episode when we talked about the writer of Dolittle, Stephen Gaghan. He wrote Syriana, which is one of my favorite geopolitical thrillers. And I needed to watch that movie a couple times before I caught everything. So there is a way to pull off a movie about political intrigue, geopolitics, war, and personal stories within those things that are following different kind of plot lines. There's a way to do it, and to do it successfully. And I'm not saying I was trying to compare it only to that movie, but there are multiple times in this movie where I felt like, I don't know who else to blame other than Dee Rees. She was sacrificing opportunities dramaturgically to build up a character's point of view, so that when she introduced Anne Hathaway to new situations, we didn't understand how to react with her, because this movie was supposed to be told in real time.
Yeah, we were having your character just stop dead and do nothing while a voiceover explains the parts you're supposed to have got up until now is definitely not a good device.
Very good sign. Unless let's all right, but even dramaturgically, let's stay true to what you're establishing. The movie opens with a narrative voiceover. So if you're going to do that, then let's use the tool.
Yeah.
Let's actually, I don't know if that means more or less, or where you're going to place it, but there's a way to...
It was barely used again, except when they needed to get you some exposition.
Exactly. It did feel like it was exploiting that device of a narrative tool only when everyone who's watching and possibly made the film knew, we don't know what's going on, so I'm going to have to clarify some things. And that is the line, isn't it? You're going to be towing that line whenever you're doing anything with political intrigue. Of course, I don't want to know everything. Of course, I don't expect the protagonist to know every single thing that's happening unless they're like a superhero kind of character. But there are ways you're going to unleash that information. And it's not just specifics of information, literally what's happening in the timeline of Iran-Contra, and literally when her plane landed, when her plane's leaving. Emotional storylines as well. Emotional timelines as well. I did not understand a lot of how she got from A to B emotionally. And if nothing else, that distracted me from the specifics of the literal timeline. So that's just a filmmaking thing. I'm not blame Anne Hathaway for that. I think she actually did a pretty damn good job trying to act in this movie.
Dude, Anne Hathaway was great. Willem Dafoe was great. Ben Affleck actually learned to turn his head about halfway through. He was great.
I thought so. No, I really did. I thought they were great. The guy who played the hotel owner too, who's
yes,
he's in the American. Yeah,
but like I never thought I'd say the worst thing about this movie is not Ben Affleck. So.
Come on.
He had a tough run too because he had this and The Way Back coming out.
No, I love Ben. I actually really love Ben Affleck as Batman, to be honest. He was really good.
Me too.
But yeah, this he was. Why is he second on the poster? Like I'm looking at the poster right now. Why is Ben Affleck's name second on the poster? He's not in it until like an hour and a half in, except for a 30-second scene. Like
he's Ben fucking Affleck.
Because his name is Ben Affleck.
I'm sorry. I will say Rosie Perez was in this more than him.
Tell me if you guys agree with this. Like, as much as I feel like we're giving it some shit, but, and I'm usually not the one who says this, I didn't mind this movie nearly as much as everyone was talking shit about it on the internet. It was kind of hard to understand, and I don't think she achieved her ultimate goal. But maybe I'm just a sucker for politics and stuff. I like that period of time. I'm interested in that Reagan era, and especially with what happened with Iran-Contra. So maybe I was just kind of curious about this spin. But I did not think it was a 4.3. There are way worse movies that have higher ratings on IMDb than this movie.
No, I disagree.
You feel that way? Or?
Yeah, no, this was a train wreck of a film. It was. I mean, I don't like. I can't tell you what happened at the end. I don't know why she banged Ben Affleck all of a sudden. Like there was no context for that really.
Strange, I guess.
It's just the whole thing, and again, there was a lot of poorly communicated subtext in like the screenplay, the adaptation, and it's like no one really gives a bad performance. The shooting's on point, so for me, it comes down to the screenplay and the editing, and it just made it so jolting and confusing. I didn't know what was going on. Half the people that saw it didn't know what was going on.
Do you think there's a chance this movie was 30 minutes longer and they cut it? Because they were like, this is getting really confusing. But like it was all necessary. It wouldn't have been as confusing if we had those extra 10 scenes or whatever.
I'd like to hope that's what happened. Yeah.
I don't know. It felt like somebody was telling her it's not succinct enough. Like you're getting too into the politics when we need to just get it down to her. It kind of felt that way when I was watching it. And I thought that was like the quicksand of this movie was that I knew it was about her. I didn't need it to be about her. She was already my surrogate. I wanted them to give me more information so that I would have felt more stress for her, because ultimately this movie leads to a tragedy in her life at the very end of this. And by the time it got there, my biggest complaint was not that I was confused about what actually happened with the politics and specifically with her getting involved in the politics. My biggest concern was that I didn't care when the tragedy happened to her emotionally. I didn't care about her character. And that's always the line, isn't it? Like if you don't have me invested in what's happening to characters, then I can't retain the other information at all. I'm only going to do that stuff in a movie setting because I care so much about how it's affecting these characters. Does that make sense?
It does. Yes.
I don't know.
I mean, again, sadly, I sat through this whole thing. I was checking how long was left constantly. I really didn't enjoy it. And my biggest question that I brought out of the whole thing, because don't get me wrong, like I said, cinematography was on point. They shot this on Alexa LF, which is the big camera, which is not exactly the thing you want to be lugging around like the jungles of Puerto Rico. So like hats off to the cinematographers for like carrying that thing for all this time. But there's also that one shot right near the beginning where we get to the airport and the camera leaves the car and goes straight through the baggage claim of the other side of the little airport. And it's all this big one of it, and it's so fast moving. I'm like, were they running? Or did they build ramp? Like, what happened there? That was a really, really good shot. And that was good. But the biggest question, sadly, out of the whole movie is why is that dog trained to run at the bombs?
That was a weird
That's
moment.
the takeaway. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. And like, the guy whistles and the dog runs straight to where the bomb is. It's like, what the fuck?
There are too many weird little moments like that in spite of everything else we're saying critically, there are too many weird, tiny little throwaway mistakes that are not necessary to the story or anything that kind of just interrupt your viewing experience. That it's just like, why didn't you cut that? Well, if there was other information stuff, give me that and cut little moments like that. That's not necessary at all.
And also, we're like an hour and 20, 30 in, and we're establishing a new character. It's like I'd like the guy at the hotel. I don't know if that was weird to me. Like there was so much that was out of whack.
What do you think of this idea? Because there are a couple deep lines in here. Like one that she has is, all I have left is this story, which I guess this movie almost seems like a throwaway. Like, Jesus Christ, you lost the story. But then the guy who works at the hotel says to her, the unreported story of Vietnam is the reporters who couldn't move past how Vietnam was, and they were stuck trying to get this story across. And his quote is, "We are meant to survive beyond our stories." So on some contexts that can be cheesy, and on some contexts that can be the most powerful thing anybody's ever said. So the idea that Annie's lost in her own story, that trying to get the story, she becomes the story. I think everybody who sees this movie should sort of get that on its principle. What do you think about the idea that this a literature story, though? I know she's a writer, but this is not the Post. She is trying to gather information. She's collecting data. She's not writing anything. So she gets lost in her own narrative, but she's not really a writer here. So do you think that is the trope was off and a reason that it sort of got befuddled? Do you think that's possibly? What do you think?
I do think that. I think very specifically, I loved that line. And it was one of those times where I said it last week. I've said it before. Like, you're not supposed to write toward themes. You're not supposed to try to project themes onto audience. Like, we can do that on our own, if it's told well. And I thought that when that was said, I was like, okay, I think I know what we're going to start to expect. I think this is going to unravel, and she's not going to be able to articulate and get it out, or whatever. Something is going to get in the way of her being able to handle what's happening to her. But I think one reason I have so much interest in Iran-Contra, Vietnam, and a lot of other things that have happened politically where there really is just not enough information to give us the full context, is that there is a almost mystic element to the telling of those things with the history that is given. So there is a difference between that and a protagonist who goes into her own little version of that story and is trying to project that same theme. What she got wrapped up in with the gun running, and Ben Affleck's character, who works for the government and stuff, and was basically part of the CIA and the State Department that was manipulating what was happening to her, it was not intertwined enough with what was happening with the gun running and the weapons running from the CIA to the Iran-Contra for me to actually feel like it was a reporter caught in the middle of it. I felt like she was way far removed from most of that story as soon as the airport landing scene happened. So for the last half of this movie, she's not directly involved with it anymore. And I think whenever you look back on Vietnam and things like that, you have to look at the big picture to realize this story is impossible to tell. Her story was not impossible to tell. I felt like they were trying to project some kind of impossibility onto it when really it was just a girl, a really wonderful reporter who was very ambitious, who made a mistake by trying to do a favor for her father and got caught up in some bad deals with gun running. That was the story. And I felt like they were trying to heighten it to something else.
I mean, there's a reason they call these books unadaptable. I feel like the opening monologue was probably copy pasted from the book.
It felt like book dialogue.
Yeah. And at first I was like, oh God, this is a wordy film. It's Social Network all over again. And then they barely did it again.
Buzz yourself. Buzz yourself with that motherfucker.
Buzz yourself. I like
Social Network. Aaron Sorkin, baby.
I've never finished that film.
Right, though. Oh my God.
Aaron Sorkin.
Buzz yourself again. Buzz yourself again, motherfucker. Come on.
Hey, get the fuck out of here. That's a good movie.
You? Come on, David Fincher.
It's confession hour.
You're right, though. I agree with you.
Nothing deep to say about this movie.
No.
Nothing deep to say about this movie. There's some fun sequences. There's a dog that blew up and the guy laughed about it. There's some interesting shit going on there.
That was weird.
I do want to put that let's put this disclaimer out though. I think all three of us would agree. I want Dee Rees to keep making movies. Like, I'm glad she took a risk. Like, and I want them to keep going. This was just a swing and a miss. I just don't think
anyone can swing and a miss. We've all done it. Like, there's
1941.
Oh God,
Jesus,
just for bringing that
up. Spielberg. Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
What are real fast before we go? What did you like about this movie? Like, for me, it was the performances. Like those people thought they were in. They thought that they were in the Killing Fields. They thought that they were in Platoon. They thought that they were really going to be telling this untold story of a very confusing time in U.S. and Central American history. And I thought they were bringing it with everything they had. The editing did not do them a lot of favors, but I'm just going to say it. Let's call it out. Anne Hathaway gained some weight for this role. And she looked different than I had ever seen her before, and I fucking.
I'm pretty sure there wasn't. I'm pretty sure there wasn't a shred of makeup either in a lot of this as well.
Yeah, I mean, she was pretty fucking raw, and I bought a lot of what she was giving me. I was like, thank you.
Very, very noticeable, and I appreciated it. It's one of the few things I appreciate about this film.
Me too. What did you guys like?
She was working hard. She was working hard. I like the idea. I think.
Fuck. Damn.
Dave, did you like anything about this movie?
I mean, there's a couple of shots that I liked, but apart from that, no, not really at all.
Did it lose you from that opening narrative monologue? Were you like, "Fuck this shit"? Were you immediately like, "No, thank you"?
Up until that point, at the point where she got back. And they were like, "We're cutting the story. You're now on the candidate trail." I was following it, and then it just went off the rails for me. Like, I don't know whether I missed something or what, but it just I just started having trouble keeping up with the narrative. And if I can't follow the story, why am I watching this?
I feel you, man. Yeah. I feel you.
Damn.
Should we recommend people see this?
I would recommend people see this so that you can go to our Facebook page and, for the love of God, paste what the ending means or what this movie's about, because I have no.
Somebody tell us about the ending.
Yeah. No, I feel you.
All right.
Well, we did pick Razzie movies, so
yeah.
I thought Razzie movies.
Last week we redeemed. Well, last week was not so bad.
That's true,
and it's fun.
That's true.
Hey, usually the Razzie, I actually think this is not going to get any Razzie nominations after all this.
It might.
Because I think they're going to, if they give her one, it's going to be for The Witches, which we haven't even seen yet. Yeah. So I'm just saying, like, generally, there's going for it and fucking up miserably. Like Jupiter's Ascending or something. Like, they like that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Big swing.
They don't like movies that just kind of just didn't work.
Dude, rewatch Jupiter Ascending. It's fun.
Is it? I still haven't seen it.
It's fucking terrible, but it's fun.
Nice.
Great.
All right. Well, that was a good time. Let's wrap it up.
Do you have next week queued up? Anybody?
I do. So that was this was our second week. So for the third week, we're going to be talking about our Oscar possibility contention movie. It is Aaron Sorkin's second directorial movie. He wrote this, of course. It is the Trial of Chicago 7th. It came out October 16th on Netflix. And then our possible Razzie movie. I think everybody saw the trailers for these. A little Blumhouse production for you. Fantasy Island. It came out February 14th in theaters, if anyone still saw movies back then. And that thing is available on Stars. Yeah. So Trial Chicago 7 on Netflix, Fantasy Island on Stars, if you want to watch along. We can talk about
we'll post those on the Facebook page so you can find them easy.
It's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. I have been wanting to watch Trial Chicago 7 for a long time. As soon as we decided to do this, I was like, all right, I should hold off so I'll be fresh. But I'm really looking forward to it. I've heard Aaron talk about it a few times. Looking forward to it, dude.
Nice.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one. Right, I'm very interested to hear what people think of Fantasy Island too.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
Good times.
Signing off.
Next
folks.
week.
Thank you for joining us.
No more Trump. God damn. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Film fans.
Peace.